This argument gets brought up every other day and I want to resolve it right here and right now. So have you ever been reading a book and really enjoying it and you wanted to see what everybody else was thinking about this book, and so you decide to log on to Goodreads and read the reviews and you realize there are so many negative reviews. Why is everybody being so negative? Why are there so many one-star reviews? And it starts to make you question, why am I liking this book? And is this maybe something wrong with me? Something wrong with the author? I feel like a lot of people go through this. I feel like this happens all the time, and it's probably why this discussion gets brought up so frequently within this community. Because I know for myself, there have been so many times where I've read a book and I've absolutely loved it, and then I come online and I realize, oh my gosh, everybody hates this book. What's going on? Or even the opposite of that, where I've like hated a book so much and then I go online and I'm like, everybody loves this book. What is happening? It really creates like this dissonance within you of being like second guessing your opinions and second guessing the opinions of others. It's very weird, but I feel like this definitely leads into this greater conversation about what is the role of the book review, and should we be taking it so seriously? Should we just be letting it kind of roll off our backs and not really listening to them so closely? And really, I feel like for me, this has come to a head because with the releases of very, very popular big books like Great Big Beautiful Life and Silver Elite, people have been having a lot of opinions about book reviews, especially about negative book reviews. I feel like there are a few different camps here. There are the people who will see like a very popular book and see a few negative reviews of that popular book, and they will have the reaction of like, wow, finally a honest review, one that isn't like being paid for or being influenced or whatever. And then there will be other people who will see negative reviews and be like, this is really mean, this is really hurtful, you are negatively impacting the success of an author. And I am personally, as somebody who has been reviewing books for years and who has been talking about books publicly for years, I kind of have a little bit of an issue with both of those camps. And so today I really wanted to talk about negative reviews and what they mean to the community, why they're important, but also why we shouldn't take them quite as seriously as we currently do. So for me, I really view reviews, especially negative reviews, as a sign of a really healthy book culture. And there's definitely this like pervasive misunderstanding amongst readers that negative reviews are hurting authors, but really they're actually supposed to be helping readers. And I think the distinction is really important. So you might be asking, why do reviews matter? And I think that the reason is threefold. So first of all, negative reviews really help readers make informed decisions about the books that they are going to check out from the library or buy at the bookstore. With negative reviews, you kind of get to see a breadth of critique, and it's not just hearing the same opinion repeated over and over. And even in my experience, I've looked up negative reviews of books I want to buy or books I want to check out from the library and have decided to pick them up, even despite the negative reviews or even because of the negative reviews. Negative reviews also help highlight subjectivity within the reader space, because what doesn't work for one reader might really work for another reader and vice versa. And I think that it's really productive to be able to see the negatives or the positives of any certain book that you want to pick up, especially if there is a lot of hype around a certain book. It can kind of help to balance out the conversation surrounding that book. And does that mean that negative reviews are inherently more honest than a positive review? No, but I think that you need to kind of be able to see both of the reviews and realize that every book is going to interact with every reader in a different and unique way. Because honestly, no two readers are alike. No two readers are going to bring the same biases into a book as another reader. And so even if it's the same book, and even if that book has gotten a lot of hype, every single reader is going to have a completely different experience with that same book. And honestly, at the end of the day, I feel like negative reviews really encourage exciting and interesting conversations within the book community, as long as everybody's open to it. I feel like, unfortunately, some people are a little bit more sensitive towards negative reviews than other people. And so when people try to have really productive and honest critiques of especially like hyped books, very popular books, I feel like sometimes people can try to shut those down, and it really inhibits the more nuanced and interesting discussions that we could be having. So I feel like the number one thing that people love to bring up is that negative reviews are harmful or hurtful to authors. And I think I just need to lay it out completely honest and simple. Reviews are not meant for authors, they are meant for readers. Once you decide to publish a book, that book is no longer just solely for the author. That book is for everybody. That book is for an entire global audience. And so if an author doesn't want to hear negative reviews about their books, they have a few options. I should preface that, first of all, no reader, no reviewer should be sending negative reviews to authors. That's extremely rude and extremely inappropriate, and completely just like kind of negates the entire separation between author and reviewer. Those two things should be very separate unless it's a positive review. If you want to like send a 5-star review to an author and it's glowing and gushing and incredible and like you absolutely love the book, go for it. I've heard from so many authors that they absolutely love that. But if it's like a negative review or like a middling review, definitely don't send it to an author. That's extremely rude. Just don't do it. But okay, so authors have a few options. First of all, if you are a writer and you absolutely love to write, it's one of your favorite hobbies and you find a lot of joy from that, but you don't really want to hear negative reviews, you don't really want to have your work subject to negativity or critique, maybe publishing isn't for you, and that's okay. I've known so many people in my life who absolutely love to write but never want to publish because they just don't want to have the critique. They just don't want to be in that space. They don't want to have their books like on Goodreads and open to review. That's just not what they want, and they know that about themselves, and I think that that's awesome. I'm totally a proponent of having hobbies that you don't necessarily need to monetize. I feel like too often we have this mindset, especially in today's society, where we have a hobby that we love and that we cherish, and it kind of gets ruined by monetizing it and putting it out into the world, and you're like, now it's not quite as fun because people are having opinions about it, and I don't really want that. I want it to just be something that I love and that is for me, and that's totally fine. That's valid and that's fair, and I applaud any writer who just wants to write for themselves. However, if you decide to publish a book, if you decide to shop it around, send it to agents and publishers and whatever, you are basically signing into this social contract of, I am giving this piece of art, I'm putting it out into the world, it's no longer fully mine, it's going into the hands of readers, reviewers, critics. Like, that's just the reality of the situation. And having authors or even readers go around harassing people, telling people that they can't negatively review a book for any reason is ridiculous. If someone has read a book, they should be allowed to review it in the way that they want to. And that's just honestly the reality of the situation. And as an author, you can decide to not go on Goodreads, to not go into reader spaces and check out your book and see what people are saying about it. And I know as a content creator, it is so just like you have this need, almost like this very cruel desire to like look at what people are saying about you and see how bad it is. Almost like it's very strange. Like, that's definitely something I have dealt with in the past. Like, if you didn't know, there is a website called Guru Gossip, and they have like an entire community basically dedicated to talking about the different like bookish creators, and that's a whole bag of worms that I have decided I do not want to open because I don't need to hear that kind of negativity about myself or about my content or whatever, and they are allowed to do their thing on that website, I am allowed to completely ignore it and not subject myself to that kind of negativity. And as an author, you also have that right to not go onto Goodreads, to not go into the 1-star, 2-star, 3-star section and subject yourself to that negativity. That is absolutely your right. Just as it's the reviewer's right to review your books in the way that they feel fit. And honestly, it's just really, really normal for a book to not be for every reader. If every book was for every reader, that would be kind of boring, honestly. I would hate to hear the same exact opinions and critiques or whatever about every single book, because like, what's the fun in that? What's the fun in not having the books that you have like a little bit of a beef with? Like, that's just as fun as having your favorite book. But I think that we as creatives really have to kind of let go of the idea that everybody needs to love our content. Everybody needs to love the things that we write. Everybody needs to love us. Because honestly, people not loving your book is not a reflection on you. It's not a reflection on what they believe about you or your value as a person. It really is just a critique of your work. And that's okay. And I think we also need to clear up some common misunderstandings. And I've already gotten into this a little bit earlier, but I think that there are a few that we really need to address. So first off, negative reviews are not personal attacks. They are not moral judgments on the author. It's really just an emotional response. You're not meant to take them personally. I know that for me, when I write a negative review, it's not me trying to attack the author, trying to attack their personality or attack who they are as people or attack their morality or whatever. It's really just me looking at this work and being like, didn't work for me, didn't like it for this reason, that reason, and this reason. And for me, when I write a review, I try to give like actual textual evidence. I think that that's really important when you're writing a negative review specifically, is to actually engage with the text and be like, these are the exact reasons why the book didn't work out for me. And for some reviewers, they don't do that. For some reviewers, it's just a 1-star, they don't give an explanation, and you'll just never know. And that's totally fine too. But for me as a reviewer, I do like to kind of give a little bit more context as to why I didn't like a book. But any way that you want to review as a reader, that's going to be valid. Also, another misunderstanding that I see all the time is that a critical review or negative review is cruel or mean or giving like mean girl energy. I've heard that so many times and I'm low-key sick of it. I'm genuinely so sick of it. We need to get rid of this idea that not liking a book means that you're a mean person. Like, that's ridiculous. Why would we ever think that? If you have like a meal at a restaurant and you didn't like it, does that make you a mean person? That just doesn't make sense to me in my brain. I'm like, we need to kind of like flip the narrative or like see it from another side, because I feel like we get a little bit too precious about writing as like an art form. We know that authors put like so much energy and blood, sweat, and tears into their work. I know that as a writer. I've been writing for so long. I've put so much of myself into this work. But I also know that if I want to put this work out into the universe, people are going to have their opinions about it, and it's not going to be a personal reflection on me. And I'm also not going to think like, oh, this person didn't like my book, they're mean, they're a mean girl. That's ridiculous. People have their different opinions and different ways of seeing things, and they're going to bring their biases and their experiences into reading every single book, and it's going to be different for everybody. And I think that that's just something that people need to keep in mind when they immediately have that emotional response to a negative review, is that like, it's not that serious. It really is not that deep. I know that phrase gets kind of thrown around about things that are actually serious and actually that deep, but truly a negative review, it's a blip. It's a blip in your world. It's a blip in the universe. Don't worry about it. But I do think that it should also be mentioned that sometimes negative reviews are actually used in order to highlight certain issues that marginalized readers might have with representation within the book. That's really important. I don't think that that's something that people should be silencing, and I feel like that's something that kind of gets lost in this conversation about why people hate negative reviews so much. I'm like, sometimes they are really helpful. Sometimes they are actually highlighting something that is harmful, that is, you know, bigoted or whatever in a book, and that should be called out. And for too long, marginalized perspectives within the bookish community have been silenced or told that they shouldn't be talking about this kind of stuff. And so I feel like when people are having their big emotions about negative reviews, they kind of need to keep that in mind and be like, actually, they might be really helpful to certain marginalized communities, and we shouldn't be trying to silence them. Another new misunderstanding that I've heard quite a lot, and that I actually got a few replies about in a post that I made on Threads, is that some people view a negative review coming from somebody who like doesn't like a genre, doesn't like the author or whatever. They don't want to see that person read that book and negatively review it. And what the reasoning is basically that like, if you know that you're not going to like a book before you go into it, just don't read it and don't negatively review it. Which I think is a little bit ridiculous, because when you kind of flip that around and you're like, well, if a reader knows that they're going to love a book before they go into it, can they not positively review the book? Like, say if I read an Emily Henry book, I love Emily Henry, I know I'm going to love her next book. If I go into her next book and I read it and I absolutely love it, does that make my positive review not honest or not genuine? Because that follows the same logic as telling me that if I go into a book that I know I'm not going to like, and if I read it and I hate it, that means I can't write a negative review about it. It just seems weird on either side. So that misunderstanding, that sort of way of thinking just doesn't work for me. People are allowed to read books that they don't think they're gonna like. They're allowed to step out of their comfort zone, maybe read a genre that they don't typically like. And hey, if they don't like the book, they don't like the book. If they read the book, they read the book, and they can review it. To me, the only prerequisite to writing a review is, did you read the book? If you read the book, I don't care how you felt about it, you're allowed to write a review. So in conclusion, negative reviews are, to me, part of a really healthy and honest discourse within the book community, and they are extremely necessary in order to not only help readers like figure out what they want to read, but also to build a more nuanced and complex and honestly more welcoming community. I know that probably sounds weird to be like, oh, a negative review is going to help build a community. I feel like when we're able to have honest and productive discourse, I feel like that can actually create a much healthier community and is going to allow for different perspectives to happen and exist, and people aren't going to feel like they are being silenced. Respectful and nuanced disagreement and conflict resolution is really, really helpful to building a community. And I think at the end of the day, we just have to remember that there is no moral high ground to loving a book or hating a book. All there is personal taste and the productive conversation that creates. So I think that we need to continue to allow negative reviews to happen. I don't really like to see readers being silenced or censored or whatever, especially within our current political climate where we are already trying to censor and silence certain voices and certain books and certain authors. We don't need to be doing that to reviewers as well. So I think that we just have to have a better perspective on negative reviews and why they are so beneficial to our overall bookish community. So yeah, that is my entire discussion. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. This is something that I have wanted to talk about for a while. I've wanted to make a video about this for a while because honestly, this discussion gets brought up time and time again. And I think that we just need to put it to rest once and for all. I hope you guys all enjoyed this discussion, and definitely let me know all of your thoughts in the comments down below. I would love to hear them. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Also, go ahead and follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads, Storygraph, and TikTok. All the links are down below, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!